What's up YouTube, this is GalacticGod, and welcome to another episode of Yugioh Chat. Now first off, let me get to a couple of quick shoutouts. The first one being to HTC Deadman, the second one being to Mr. J Jump, the third one going to ZuesYugioh, and the fourth one going to Rettiko. Now if you guys could, please go check out their Yugioh channels. I shall have links to them in the description bar below, as well as in annotations somewhere on the screen. If you guys could like, rate, comment, subscribe to their stuff, I'm sure any kind of help and feedback would be most appreciated by them. Now, for this week's discussion, I wanted to kind of talk about the ban list, or not necessarily the ban list in general, just the idea that the TCG ban list and the OCG ban list can be different. Now, you might hear a lot of players kind of talk about, well, the OCG ban list is out, so now we got to wait and make sure and confirm that the TCG ban list will be the same. Now, some newer players might be wondering, like, well, isn't it always the same? Ever since I've started playing the game a few years ago, the TCG and the OCG ban list have been identical, and that is true. For quite a number of years now, we have had the same exact ban list, but this was not always the case. Now, in years past, back when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, there was no such thing as a ban list at all. There was limited cards that you could only have 1 or 2 copies of in your deck, but there was no cards that were outright forbidden, that you could not use at all. This was something that came later on in the game. I believe the first ban list came shortly after maybe Soul of the Duelist. I think that was the set that I remember. Maybe it was Rise of Destiny. I don't remember. Soul of the Duelist, Rise of Destiny was probably like one of the last couple sets that we had before there was an actual forbidden list. Now before that, cards were only limited or semi-limited and stuff like that. And when the list was first released in the OCG, we didn't get our TCG list until, quite a bit later. Now, the first couple of lists that came out between the OCG and the TCG were not identical. There would be cards that were on the OCG list that didn't make the TCG list. Cards that were not on the OCG list, but they ended up being, forbidden on the TCG list. Now, some players might wonder, well, why is that? Why do we have different lists at the beginning? And the simple, most easiest reason is that we have different metas. Decks that are broken in the OCG may not be broken over here. They have cards that are released there that, we don't have yet. There are combos that, because of game mechanic differences in the TCG that are just more busted over here than they're in the OCG. Now, when you kind of think about how our metas are really different, and specifically now because we get TCG exclusive cards that the OCG doesn't have, we literally have different card pools in both the OCG and the TCG. Kind of makes you wonder, like, well, why did Konami kind of switch to having the same, forbidden list? A lot of people say it's because there was complications at Worlds, because we were used to playing one way, and then the OCG was used to playing another way, and when you went to Worlds, it was like, you have to use the OCG list. Now, in the most recent Worlds, they kind of come up with their own Worlds, kind of forbidden limited list and what you're allowed to play, which is kind of a little bit more convenient, but it kind of begs the question, coming into this, for ban list season, if you will, should the OCG and the TCG really have different lists? Obviously, our metas are pretty different. Decks that top the OCG are not necessarily the same decks that top here in the TCG. Stuff like Chaos is not running rampant really in the OCG, but over here in the TCG, Chaos Dragons were doing quite well. And then when, Blackluster Soldier didn't end up on the list because in the OCG it's not doing so well, players over here are like, why isn't BLS on the list? He should be like an easy choice to go on. But, since our metas are so far different, you gotta have to have that middle ground. Now, in the comment section below, let me know what you guys are thinking. Do you think the OCG and the TCG should have the exact same list? If so, why? If you think they should have different lists, why do you think it is that they should have different lists? Is it because the metas are so far apart? And I guess that's it for this week. This is GalacticGod, out.